Well, the exposure that the video has received on social media, once again reviving the debate about the VIP blue light brigades and heavy-handed tactics. They speak now to Mark Heywood. He's the editor for Maverick Citizen. Mark, good evening to you. Of course, one of the big issues when it comes to these brigades is that it's not just about today's incident. There is a pattern of behavior that has been allowed to take place over a series of and a number of years here.
Good evening, Kathy. Yes, I think that's precisely the point. They are meant to be there to protect politicians and senior public officials, but they behave like a law unto themselves. And in the process of protecting, in inverted commas, I would say, they endanger others. They endanger other motorists, and now we see they often behave with brutality, as we saw last night. So, you know, as has been said, I think there's a need for an investigation. There's a need for a deep introspection about who gets these blue lights, VIP protections, and there needs to be a reining in of this type of conduct. And I think in the short term, with what happened on the N1 last night, we need to know who these men were. We need to know their names. They need to be charged with assault. They need to be prosecuted, and they should be dismissed, because there can be no justification for that behavior.
Mark, the last time, at least that I can remember, when there was a very clear campaign to try and get rid of the Blue Light Brigade goes back to about 2010, when the then Premier of the Western Cape, Helen Zille, came out very strongly against the use of these individuals. And even then, there was a track record that had already been sort of listed publicly of some of their abuses. Unfortunately, she was met with great resistance and even criticism. It seems that those that enjoy the benefits of this Blue Light Brigade simply aren't willing to let it go.
No, they're not. I mean, nothing has changed in a decade. They continue to behave in this fashion. They're enormously expensive, Kathy. President Ramaphosa told Parliament last year that 1.7 billion rand per year is spent on VIP protection. That's more money than is spent on land reform. And the DA, I think, calculated that that works out at about 8 million rand per public official who is protected per year, which is just, there can just be no justification for it. I mean, whilst we might need to protect the president and the deputy president, there's no need for every MEC to have a blue light, for former presidents to have blue lights, for other officials who are really in no danger to have this type of protection. So we need to shine a spotlight on it, and we need to make sure that, unlike in 2010, we maintain our outrage and our criticism until something changes.
Mark, just on the issue of budgets, if we look at the last sort of financial year of the police, in fact, what has happened is that the police have increased their spending on these VIP protection units and have decreased spending. This is for the rank and file, ordinary police members that you and I, Mark, would need to interact with after we've experienced criminality.
Well, that's the problem, Kathy, is anybody who goes and tries to lay charges or bring a complaint or seek an investigation at a police station will tell you a story of how difficult it was, how unprepared, how unequipped often the police are, how slow the police are, although, of course, there are exceptions to that, and we mustn't tar everybody with the same brush. But, we are facing a crisis of crime in this country. We're in a country with 25,000 murders per year at the moment. We're in a country where crime intelligence has broken down, and yet we're able to put these type of resources into protecting a fraction of a percent of our population, while 99% of people remain completely vulnerable to crime and these types of misdemeanors. So there's clearly something that is very wrong.
There's a real conversation to be had as well around accountability, because for as long as these individuals are sort of always given a slap on the wrist, they continue to work in those positions, nothing ever truly happens, then we can't expect that their behavior will change.
No, accountability is absolutely critical, and that's why, when we started this conversation, I said we must make sure that these men are not just suspended or disciplined, they committed a criminal offence. They pushed people off the road, from what we can see last night. They kicked them. They pointed guns at them. They left one man looking as if he was in a semi-conscious state. That's a criminal offence, and they must be charged for criminal offences, and they must be removed from the police force. And I think we should stop it. We should be satisfied with nothing less, and I hope that you and me in the media will continue to ask questions, that this won't simply be a matter of 2 or 3 days of outrage and then we move our outrage onto something else. We have to ensure accountability and then move on to other areas where there are problems as well.
All right, Mark Heywood, we'll leave it there for tonight. Thanks for your time. He is the editor of Maverick Citizen. And certainly, Stephen, we know just how big a problem this has been over a number of years. But of course, the legislation has enabled the politicians to continue using these brigades due to protection issues. And often, even when they speed, they justify it as being on official business, emergencies, and therefore nothing ever happens.
Well, you remember, Kathy, of course, how it turned out that the budget for VIP security was higher than the budget for land restitution in South Africa. Well, let's have a look at some of the incidents involving VIP protection and civilians over the last little while. One of them, of course, was the pedestrian who died after being hit by President Jacob Zuma's motorcade in 2009.
Well, staying also with just the historic record of what we know, there was also a biker that was hit by a convoy of an MEC in 2011. That took place in Randfontein. And in 2015, 2 cyclists allegedly assaulted for not clearing the road fast enough in Cape Town.
It's amazing. There was another incident involving a man killed in a crash involving then Minister David Mahlobo's convoy in Emalahleni. And then in September 2016, a man was assaulted for not giving away quickly enough in Tshwane. So many cases. I'm sure many people will have their own stories. And Kathy, I know journalists who have their own stories of being assaulted by police officers as well.
You know, one of the incidents, Stephen, this one took place around 2010, was a convoy that was also in KZN, Msunduzi municipality, and they felt that the motorist in front of them was driving too slow. So they shot at his tires.